He's got his eye on you. Oh, 3 of them. Here's a look at the brand new Mattel Master Universe Masterverse, Master Universe New Eternia, Triklops. The Technomancer's latest mechanical masterpiece worked perfectly. Dubbed the Multivisor, the Triklops gazed into the paradimensional and discovered a new Eternia where the power of Grayskull was up for grabs. I suspect those seeing eyes might spell trouble for the rest of the Masters. First thing we'll do, as I've already started to do this, we're going to grab the tape measure and see how tall the new Eternia Triklops is. Like with most of the figures that have on average been about 7 inches, Triklops really being no different. He's 7 inches in height, or the figure's about 18 centimeters tall. Not the first Triklops to the rodeo. We did get one courtesy of the Revelation line. The colors, at least of the tan, are a little bit lighter, although they're still pretty orange. The new Eternia one, I would have hoped that they could have made it a lot lighter than what they actually did, but at least it's not as orange of a tint that we did get from Revelations. The armor, pleasant to see that it's not using the same molding. In fact, if you look at the 2 armors, they're completely different. Maybe, yes, the arms are shared between the 2. The loincloths and the lower boots certainly are not. I'm glad to see that they did do a lot of retooling and simply just didn't carry over similar molds from one figure to the other. Other figures we can also bring in from the new Eternia line. Here's what the figure looks like with the recently looked at Trapjaw. I did also want to bring in Trapjaw because of something a couple of viewers had pointed out to me. If you happen to have, well, I would hope that you would still have all these accessories. The one that had the pincing mouth, if you take the lower end off like this, you can actually take Trapjaw's head off completely and replace the jaw. It's just a case of just detaching it. They're on pins on either side. And then you take the part that comes included with the claw attachment and fit that in place in favor of a much more nightmarish look to his Trapjaw. So instead of actually having more like the classic looking figure with the color scheme kind of more in a pinkish purple, you get a much more menacing looking Trapjaw instead. Just go ahead and put that back onto the figure's head sculpt here. Put it right over here. I don't know if I will end up displaying Trapjaw now with the new jaw. I still kind of like the idea of keeping the colors kind of more closer to the vintage figures. Speaking of figures, a couple that did fall over in the process. Here's what the figure looks like with the new Eternia Faker. Yeah, I still haven't fixed the problem with the smudge on top of his head. Here's what the figure looks like, not with new Eternia, but Revelation Merman, because we don't have a new Eternia version of Merman just yet. And like we had done before, here's what the figure as well looks like with the Master Universe Origins Triklops. A mystery bag? Oh yeah, we get one of those. You may have already saw me pulling that out at the beginning of this review. Contained in that bag, by the way, were all the things off to the side here. The thing that wasn't in there actually was one of his swords. This green hilted, green guarded sword actually does have some really nice metallic finish to it. Unfortunately, though, I have a little bit of paint. I don't know if it's actually flaked off, but you can see I got a little bit of a black, maybe it's some additional paint, smudged on the end of the blade. The actual plastic that they've used is fairly soft, and because he now already has gripping hands on both his forearms, you can wield not only this sword, but also as well the sword that comes included in the bag. There's some also additional storage on the back here that you can take at least one sword for right now at least, and store that on the back of the figure's body. Kind of, again, more the classic looking sword that came included with Triklops. What he does have, though, also on this side is an additional sword that's completely a molded different. Well, first of all, the guard is completely different. Maybe the hilt is somewhat similar, but you can see like this has a little bit more of a squared off guard versus the crescent moon guard that comes included with the original sword. This one also, again, is made of fairly soft plastic, but luckily, unlike this one, doesn't seem to have any smudging or paint problems. Now, yeah, I know what you're thinking. He sure can hold both swords, but man, it would be nice if he could actually store both on the back of the figure's body. Mattel did think that. The figure does come also included with this bandolier sash. Now, the sash does give now the benefit of an additional holster on the back. This just fits over top of his existing body. It's a pretty soft plastic also as well, and it has some additional eyes on the front. Now, I don't know if the eyes work the same way as many faces. Remember, he carried around a little locker case that stored all the extra faces that he wasn't currently using. Made the joke that he was going door to door selling people's faces. I wonder if something is similar here with Triklops. Not that you can actually remove any one of these, but I wonder if these are all additional eyes that he just pulls off and then replaces with his existing visor. You have to imagine if I had a visor on the front here. None of these, by the way, remove. They're just only merely painted in place. But you can take this sash, just bring his arm up just a little bit, just enough to clear his arm, and just fit that over top of his body like that. I don't think it really adds anything. I mean, obviously, it does add something to it, but liking more the classic look to Triklops, I might just stick with the idea of not having him displayed with it. The benefit, though, of having it, though, is that you can take this sword that we've already done from before, Just kind of tuck that underneath the sash. You kind of end up getting it underneath his armor. So slide one down that way, and then you can take then the other sword and slide it this way. One of my biggest worries was I thought it was going to end up warping the sword, but you can see it stays perfectly straight. And now he has storage place for at least to store both swords. I mean, it's good from the back standpoint. From the front, though, I don't really like the idea that he has this additional sash. Maybe if it was in a different color, then the bandolier wouldn't bother me as much. Maybe if it was gold, or maybe if it was a darker green, something other than just white, because I think white just makes it look a little awkward and out of place. Remove the swords for at least right now. We're going to put those off to the side. We'll remove the sashes. Now we'll just lift up his arm. We'll just remove this also as well. And we'll just put it off to the side. The figure also inside that bag, by the way, did come included with a couple of closed fists. You know, again, they're the exact same fists as what we got with both Mechaneck and in the review of Man-at-Arms. We also had a look at these. Well, you didn't see those reviews? Go check them out. Okay, maybe don't check them out. Don't check them out just yet. Stay, watch the rest of this review. And then when you're done, you can go back, watch the review of Mechaneck and Man-at-Arms. I think they're both cool. Anyways, you do get a couple of closed fists. I mean, again, these just pop out from his existing hands that he has now. The interesting thing that he also comes included with is an additional visor. I thought initially it may have been a nod to the 2000X series Triklops, but again, like it's missing some of the silver detailing on the top of it. It's a little bit different from the one that he has right now. There's also a reference on the back of the packaging for a multi-visor, something a Triklops is able to use into the paradimensional. I wonder if it's this. I don't suspect it's probably the sash, but this is just a case like to look at the figure right now. The eyes are a little bit different. So like on this one, you've got the larger eye, kind of more akin to the original vintage toy. Just spin this around. You've also got this one that has the angry expression. Again, let me just bring back in the original Triklops so you guys can see. Started with this eye, right? Started with, flip it around, flip it around, flip it around. We start sort of with like this eye, and then we get something very similar to the red eye. So again, we'll just spin that around. And then you also get one, as I keep continuing to turn his head, we also have this one, which does have sort of like the lower eyebrow. It's just not the same color as the Origins Triklops. So you get this one, I think, is a little bit more closer to the original vintage Triklops. But then again, like if you look at this one, you can see like the placement of the eyes or the sizing of the eyes. See how it still has sort of the furrowed eyebrow? Kind of looks like an owl's eye. It's a little bit smaller in size. And again, like this one, if we kind of line everything up, you got a square eye and you got a triangular eye. So they change up the shape a little bit other than maybe just being the traditional shape for eyes. Something that they also change is, if you can see, like the actual visor has this scaling all across it. I'm not a big fan of the scaling myself. I wish that we could have actually got one that had a smoother surface. I wish in a way we could have Frankenstein these two pieces together, maybe taking the eyes from this visor and maybe taking some of more of the decorative details from this visor. Because I like both of them, but I like them for different reasons. If you did want to change these, by the way, this does rotate, so you can rotate it between the various eyes. When you do rotate it, it does lock in place. So as you are turning it, you can feel it hits to the point of his nose, and then it clicks. Just like that. But if you did want to change it, it's just a case of taking the visor and sliding it off completely. You can see that that would be his eyes underneath. Really some cool additional sculpting. They could have just easily left that off, but the fact that they actually throw in like a little Easter egg in there. So if you do want to take it off, you can see there's something at least underneath it. And then for this, you just slide it over top, pop it in place. I wonder if anyone has ever made a wedding ring of Triklops' eyes. Not that I want to be giving any ideas to anybody. But again, like you have now the eyes, which again, like a slightly smaller circular eye. You've got now a square eye, following all, again, the basic shapes. And now you also got a triangle. I like this. I just don't know if I like the shape of the eyes. I kind of wish that they were a little bit bigger. From the head sculpt, from the rest of it at least, is a very different head sculpt from the one that we got from Revelation. So again, I'm just going to bring back in Revelations Triklops so you guys can see. Different face sculpt, so they're not using anything new there, or they are using something new there. And then again, on the back of the hair is also something that's sculpted differently as well. So Mattel really did look like they had to use brand new tooling for this figure, and I'm really glad that they did. The body itself is just an overlay of a plastic armor. It actually, if you look at the back of the figure, it snaps in place by these two pegs. You just attach these. If you were to remove it, you basically would just have a new Eternia body underneath it. I like the coloring of the green, and I do like that it matches the color of the visor, whether you decide to use this visor or the other one. It's a nice additional gold that they've added in there as well. The loincloth does have a little bit of a jarring color breakup there. So while you would normally be treated to like a swamp green, you get kind of more of a metallic silverish green instead. I guess they did do that so that it was a little bit more of a breakup. The original Triklops, what I believe had, well, if looking at, of course, the origins as our source point, would have had an orange belt. Maybe they could have also done something similar there as well so that the colors weren't so close in green. Loincloth, of course, down below is a softer plastic. And again, down below there, you've got your traditional New Eternia boots, which we have seen before. I mean, if to look at the New Eternia boots, they're actually a little bit bigger than the Revelation boots. So they're using a different sculpt there as well. For the figure's articulation, similar to the other two that we've already had a look at, both Mecha-Neck and Man-at-Arms all share the same similar posability. Head's going to be on a ball joint. I did notice like the head on mine at least is loose. If you happen to have this figure for yourself, let me know if you've had similar issues, but I'm sure I probably could tighten that up just a little bit, add a little bit of floor polish on the ball joint. It's to also note as well that the coloring for his face is a different color that they use for the rest of the plastic. See, it's definitely a lot more orangish brown here in this face. I wish that they had painted to match the colors a little bit more closer. The upper torso is going to be, once again, on that ball joint. The lower half of his waist is also on a waist swivel. You can bring those arms out at 90 degrees. There's a pin and hinge joint inside there. You can take the arms and rotate them all the way around. Even though really, like the top of his torso armor spreads out as wide as it does, easily you can still clear the arms, rotating them all the way around. Speaking of rotating, you can also rotate the joints in the hinges in the bicep. Speaking of elbows, a double hinge on the elbow, and the hands rotate, if I can get in there, the hands rotate all the way around. As for the legs split out. They're on ball joints. There's a swivel cut 3/4 of the way up the thigh, so that swivel's there. Double hinge on the knee. Again, I don't know why. On this leg, it's always the tighter of the two. This leg is a little bit looser. There's a swivel here with the boot that basically attaches to the calf. Ankle pivot back and forth here. Ankle rocker there as well. So again, all the same level of articulation between the figures. For the longest time, I'm sure many people probably are doing this as well when it comes to their Motu collection, I had pretty much this guy as my stand-in 7-inch Triklops, and he was fine. There was nothing really wrong with the figure at all. But I think like this one is a nice upgrade, similar to the same way that Trapjaw, the newer one from New Eternia, was a better figure, I feel, than the Revelation line. And sort of takes the same elements, giving a different, more armor that's, I feel, a little more accurate to the Origins line, or even the vintage Triklops. And also, as well, I like the visor a little bit more on this one than maybe on this one as well. The benefit of also this guy is the fact he does have two different... Can you wear it as a ring? I guess you could wear it really as a ring. This guy has two variations of, again, his visor. I still like this one, but I don't really think I like the scaling. It's too lizard-like for my liking. But again, like, it gives you at least the benefit of swapping those out if you really wanted to. It's a nice looking Triklops. And, again, I probably will just end up putting this guy back away in storage and just having this guy being my go-to when it comes to displaying this guy on the shelf. Not really liking the sash. I've decided just to leave it off, not only in final looks, but moving forward when displaying this guy on the shelf. Sure, yes, I lose some additional storage space to store the sword, but I might just end up having one sword holstered on the back of his body and then just displaying the figure, probably with more the Crescent Moon sword, because I think of that more as the classic sword for Triklops. When it comes to also his additional visor, I do like that Mattel included two different visors. One is, again, less scaly, just happens to be the one I've got the figure displayed with right now. If, again, only it could have been the other way around, where the tech detail could have been on the more classic look to Triklops' visor, and then the one that has the smaller eyes, the one that has the basic shape eyes, triangle, square, and circle, could have maybe been on the scaly visor. Just not a big fan of that one. But again, like with all those additional accessories, whatever I don't end up using on the figure when it comes to displaying this guy, will just ultimately go in the bag with all the other things that I have with all these other New Eternia figures, like Zodak, for example. Zodak came included with all these modernized parts. Ultimately, I just took those off. They still are in a bag, and I've got Zodak on the shelf, kind of, again, looking more like his classic self. Between the two Triklops, now that's a good course a question to throw out to you, the viewing audience, of the two Triklops that we've gotten, the Revelation and now the New Eternia, which one do you think is a better looking figure? Let me know down below in the comments section. If, by the way, you guys are interested and would like to get New Eternia Triklops for yourself, Evil and Sees Everything, by the way, is a little tagline below the character's bio. But if you guys are interested, this guy should be available right now in retail stores, or if you have had no luck, like any other Canadian collector, I have had zero luck finding any of these things new in the wild. I end up having to order this one online, and I'm glad that I did. If you guys did enjoy this video, I want to throw it a like. If you guys are loving the content you guys are seeing, and certainly do want to stick around for more, we will be looking at some more Motu reviews. That's Masters of the Universe, by the way. I just abbreviated that. Definitely make sure you're coming back here on a regular basis by hitting, yes, the subscribe button down below, turning on the bell notification, and the most important thing, that you're coming back here regularly. As always, guys, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.